now they have to have less staff, so they have lower expenses, less building costs, less this, but now everybody has to drive at least 4 or 5 miles or whatever that might be, because now they're going to be centrally located. They're no longer going to be dispersed based on population.
To in bed with government and all that sort of stuff. But the most important thing is they cannot keep the decent score of what they are doing, because what applied to the baker and was so critical, 2-3 loaves both baked too many, was so critical. It's just so big and sloppy now. Nobody really knows what they're doing, and it's just, I can't go on too much.
Yeah, well, it's just a pile of crap, though. Like I said, it's very rare that you'll have some circumstance where two businesses will be able to compete with each other over the same market. And if there's enough of a market to maintain two bakeries, well, then okay, they can both survive because you're going to sell enough. And so you might have a lean year when the other guy sells 70% of the bread, and you'll have great years when you're on the 70% side of that scale. But you can still survive because basically over time you're both selling 50% of the bread. You're both making enough bread and selling enough bread to both be in business. And maybe that's a limitation on the shop size. Usually that's the case with a lot of these businesses. So if one of them has the opportunity to expand, like in this town there's 2 drugstores. Now both of them are landlocked. Both of them can't expand. So neither one of them can try to become a true Walmart. I mean, one has tried. He's trying to put the rest of the mall players, he's in a little mini mall, and he's trying to put the malls out of business. He killed the chocolate shop. He's killed the the fancy bakery, by importing, French chocolates and such. But yeah, he's really hurt, the other businesses. And if it could expand, he would, but he can't. And so that's the catch. The catch is the business can't gobble everybody else up, can't put them out of business because he's locked, okay? Expansion's too expensive.
Take the United States now. Classic examples. It's too big. You've got General Motors. You've got, say, cars. How many cars should they build now? It all depends on whether GMAC is given bailed out more money so they can give easy auto loans out, or are they doing cash for clunkers this week?
Yeah, well, those are two sides of the business, though, aren't they? They were separate divisions, the one selling the loan contracts and the one making the cars. It's 2 different businesses.
Or the housing market. The housing market in the United States now, who knows what the price of a house should be? I mean, there is no particular price tag.
Well, I think you could probably figure that out, based on what it costs. I mean, there's obviously it costs less to build a house in terms of labor because of advanced materials and a lot of other things. It probably, material-wise costs more because the materials are more sophisticated, more processed. But you can figure out this stuff. It's not, you could go by land values without houses on them as another standard, or you could go based on other prices. But what does screw up the value of houses, Nick? Oh, that's right. It's like gold. It's like some stupid-ass commodity that the rich people buy. Because in this town, you can buy a big, giant hunk of land, and you don't got to pay any tax. You pay $1 in taxes, but you just call it a tree farm. So you pay $1 in taxes. You get to lock your property away in a community where land prices just keep rising, so you're guaranteed an increase. You don't got to do any work for 30 years, and you can make $1 million on a $20,000 investment 35 years ago.
A house should be, or a car should be, but when it's been 95% plus of all mortgages in the United States now are backed by the government.
Yeah, and how did that happen? We know how that happened. The bailout, okay? So let's be honest about it. All right, and they got backed by the government in this sneaky, cruddy, crappy way because these investment jackasses, these rich fuckers, these entrepreneurs lost their fucking money. And then they found a way, we can sucker the government. Uncle Sucker will take care of us because we give him lots of fucking money, for their political campaigns. And so they'll come bail us out and let us exchange our crappy paper for some real good paper.
They're bought by the Federal Housing Authority or Fannie Freddie. They go to the government. So if the government tried to keep house prices up or doing tax subsidies to encourage house buying, how's anybody meant to know how to keep score on it?
Well, I mean, the federal government doesn't do any of that taxing, so that's not going to do the federal government much good. It really can't control any of that. So that's kind of bullshit right there. Your argument fails on the technicality.
Things like that. And if that wasn't bad enough, we go to the crucial things that run through the economy to every single businessman and normal people, everybody in the population. Interest rates. Who knows what interest rates are going to be? It all depends what the mandarins or the boffins or the blithering idiots at the central bank think it should be.
Well, you really think it's that arbitrary that they just sit there and say, well, my name is Jim, and if you add the J and an I and the M, in numerology, that equals 18, and if you divide 18 by 6, it's 3, so interest rate should be 3%. You really think it's that arbitrary? I think you know better.
How the hell should they know what the interest rate should be?
Well, you know how they know. They just go by these stupid, idiotic charts that count a lot of crap that isn't real growth as growth. They count, when we put a bunch of debt money into the economy, they count the stimulus that creates as some sort of real growth when what it was is real debt.
one of the most crucial things, especially nowadays when everything's predicated on debt, is what's the interest rate. And some unelected twits have a meeting and decide what it's going to be.
Well, again, they decide by little percentages, and over time those add up. But they decide based on this mathematical standard that all the capitalists would be perfectly happy with, because they want these low interest rates on money they borrow.
Money supply. How should we know what the money supply should be? The same twits could go into meetings and decide to pump it up, push it down. It's in an atmosphere like that. What was old?
Well, look, I mean, I'm against the game being played, but you have to concede that they've played the game fairly well, in the sense that there hasn't been, the inflation has been piled up, okay, out of sight. I mean, it still exists, and that's what's going to fall on us, is this wall, this mountain of inflation that's been pent up by playing this game with the money supply and interest rates. But they did have a design objective, and that the design objective came out of your stupid Adam Smith guidebook, not Karl Marx's guidebook.
Vague capitalism is utterly impossible, because there are too many external variations.
And it's impossible in the real world anyway. Again, we had this invisible hand, and what the invisible hand created was the British Empire, and then the invisible hand created the Spanish Empire, and it creates the empires, and it creates nobles, and it creates all these owners, okay, all over the place. That's what the invisible hand creates, and it creates, yes, the Indian Tea Company or whatever it was called. It creates monopolies and giant companies that can afford to destroy anybody who's going to touch them, try to be at all competitive with them. That's what the invisible hand does.
Being thrown in left and right that it's just impossible to do, especially for a little person. And the only people who can survive it are the huge people that have got so much bodily room by taking out more loans or being into government's pocket. It's not what it used to be. And
yeah, well, that's not the only place you find wobbly room. Obviously you can find wobbly room if you have a war chest. If you're a Google and you got 30 or 40 billion bucks in the bank, yeah, you can afford to make a lot of mistakes.
It has rightly got a bad name, but when all this bigness falls down, don't think that we're going to go to any sort of any other system but that capitalist system with minimum interference.
Now, again, describe this interference. Again, what's the minimum interference? What regulations shouldn't exist? I mean, in this town, there is a stupid regulation. You have to, every time you rent a property, you have to pay the town $70 to have some idiot press the button on the smoke detector. I mean, it really is idiotic. But the truth is it's the same expense for all renters, all landlords. I mean, so in your competitive landlording business, I mean, it's an expense you all share. So it's just a tax on, that doesn't do anything to harm your business model.
Because that is the way that efficiency is.
No, it's the way exploitation is maximized, okay? It doesn't, to sit there and say that it's efficiency. It's not efficiency, Nick. It's steroids, it's corked bats, it's go ahead and let the players get a concussion, who cares? It's the opposite of efficient, because it's not designed to serve any interest except a greedy man's interest.
Arranged with no arrangement. It's
again, yes, it's efficient because again, arranged without any arrangement. So it's again the invisible hand. You don't want to be associated with it, but you'll describe it to a T and you'll applaud it and say that's where the human race will always go back to, because it's always going to be too stupid to do something like engineer or something smarter. It's not going to be able to figure out the simple ABC dynamics of economic structure, and so it will always default to the stupid wooden club because it's a dumb, stupid ape species. Okay, if you say those words because everybody's as dumb as you are and unimaginative as you are, well then fine, if that's the qualification. But that's all it will be. If the human race goes back to such a stupid system, it will be failure. It will not be success. It will be evidence of failure.
A good reason that capitalism was what it was, but it is now.
Again, it was never anything. You are describing a delusion of capitalism, not the reality of capitalism. The reality of capitalism is empire building. That's the nature of the beast. The reality of capitalism is deferring the costs and stealing the benefit. That's the reality of capitalism.
Not what it used to be. Good weekend. Bye.
Yeah, whatever. Little piggy snort at the end and the beginning. Yeah, whatever. I mean, it's your own satire, and it's perfectly fitting. Yeah, I mean, again, what are capitalists? They're just owners. They're owners of surplus, period. That's all we're talking about here. And it's a very rare person that has some real value to offer. you know, and as soon as that person does, like I said, as soon as they open the door to the investor, it's likely in the end that the investor is going to take the biggest hunk of the value in most cases. So whatever. The point is to pay people for value, to value their contribution and the work, the sacrifice involved in it. And yes, let's give people some merit for just the raw brilliance of what they might come up with. But let's recognize that that doesn't happen in a vacuum, and sometimes it's extremely just fortuitous. You know, just because of a circumstance that you have, that you acquire that proficiency. And it's just silly to over-reward it. And that's all capitalism does, is pay too few way too fucking much. And create incentives for all kinds of anti-consumer, anti-human race, anti-productive, completely inefficient bullshit.